Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Lee. I'm a pediatric health psychologist and the founder of Teen FND Academy. If you're live here, welcome. And if you're watching the replay, I am glad you're here. And when FND enters your life, it can feel sudden and confusing. Symptoms are showing up and tests are done, scans look normal, and you are left thinking, what is happening here? Many families tell me it feels like being dropped on an island in the middle of a storm. Like you don't know how you got here, and you don't know how to get off, and you don't even know which direction is safe or the right one. So today I'm going to show you the full map so recovery stops feeling random and starts feeling clear. Now, I work mostly with teens and their parents, but if you are an adult with FND, welcome. This still applies to you. The brain-body communication and retraining work the same way at any age, even though some might take longer than others. In the next few minutes, I will show you how FND works and starts, why it keeps going, and what helps the brain change. And stay with me until the second half of this live, because I will explain the most common mistake families make and how to avoid it. So let's dive in. Now I'm going to share my screen so you can see this visually. And if you have any questions, feel free to type in and I will add this to the later. Okay, so when families come to see me, they are usually here. This is FND Island. This is where the symptoms live. Seizure-like episodes, vision loss, paralysis, brain fog, pain, fainting, and weakness, and many more. These symptoms lead to so many other things like poor sleep, avoidance, focusing on symptoms, others trying to help, right? And it can feel like the storm never stops. But did you know that FND actually does not start here? It starts way up here. So I'm just going to move this screen here. And this is healthy land. All right. Your brain and body are designed to work together to keep you safe. So your brain is like a security guard, right? And it scans for a danger using clues from things like memory, your thoughts, your attention, and your feelings. And when it senses a threat, your body turns on one of 4 alarm systems like these. So fight means to defend. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger there. So fight means to defend and argue. All right. And then flight means to escape and avoid. Freeze means to shut down. And fawn is a people-pleasing behavior like over-apologizing. Now, this alarm system is normal for all of us. And in healthy land, the alarm turns on when it needs to, and it turns off to go back to this normal functioning life. But sometimes the alarm does not turn off. It stays on high alert like this. So let me show you. This is how FND can start. This can happen after things like illness, right? Or pressure, sleep problems, or any social problems, or it could be scary moments, injury or multiple injuries, or big life changes, or it could be things that build slowly over time, like accumulation. This can happen to just about anybody, right? But when the alarm stays on, the brain and the body stop communicating with each other like these storms. And so the messages get mixed up. That is when someone can be pulled onto FND Island like this. not because the brain is broken, not because there is weakness or there's something wrong with you, but because the brain and body are stuck in this protection mode. And here is the hopeful part. If this is functional, as in the name of functional neurological disorder, then it can change. So let me keep going here, because I want to show you what keeps people stuck here on FND Island. All right. So here we go. Once symptoms begin, the brain's alarm system becomes more sensitive, and the miscommunication between the brain and body gets more mixed up. So symptoms create fear, rightfully so, right? And fear creates and makes more of the poor sleep or really worsening sleep, avoidance, focusing on symptoms, and worrying about the next episode, just like anybody would. Sometimes parents or others step in quickly to rescue. Sometimes school or work or any area of your life gets paused. And all of this makes sense because everyone is trying to stay safe. Nothing wrong with that. But the brain starts learning something the longer this cycle goes on. It actually learns, I'm not safe. And the longer the brain repeats, I'm not safe, the brain will believe it is not safe. This is the protection pattern, and it continues. And this is exactly how people with FND are stuck in this loop, sometimes for a really long time. Once again, this is not a weakness, right? This is not just stress. This is not psychological. This is not making things up. None of these things. This is just your brain and body learning. What is it? The brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do to protect you, to keep you safe. Now, here is the common mistakes I see all the time. And again, there is nothing about blaming, but this is really about nobody really knows what FND is. And therefore, families and individuals with FND just get sucked into this island, right? So, what are the common mistakes, even though they don't want to? Families focusing on only stopping symptoms, right? Thinking that the symptoms are the problems, and they're trying to get rid of these episodes first, or they try to eliminate the pain first, or they try to wait until everything feels calm before re-engaging with life. Or they also try to be just positive, like being negative is not good. Or others keep just pushing through until they crash and burn. All of these approaches, again, are rightfully so, normal reactions, right? However, unfortunately, they actually keep reinforcing to the brain and the body the danger is still here, and I need to keep protecting by staying the same, which is to stay in that island, right? Recovery does not start with comfort or eliminating symptoms. So this is where it gets a little bit confusing, right, for FND recovery. So what is recovery? Recovery is really about a structured retraining of your brain and body. Remember, the brain and body gets miscommunicated, and then the mixed messages only gets worse. So the solution is to really focus on the miscommunication and then retrain the communication, right, between the brain and body. So now let's talk about what actually works. So I'm going to move this picture to the recovery island now over here. Some people take a windy road to get to the recovery road. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? What matters most is that people are moving towards the recovery. Now, Recovery Island, to be clear, is not about pretending symptoms are gone. That's not it. It is not about forcing positivity either. It is not about pushing through pain either, okay? Recovery Island is really about retraining your brain and body to work together again. And at Teen FND Academy, we teach what we call the brain toolkit. The brain stands for building resilience and improving neural health. So, what does that mean? This is very much different from chasing symptoms. So, let's talk about the actual steps of what makes and what it means to retrain your brain and body inside this brain toolkit. Step one, you really need to know what FND is, right? Because symptoms are the signs. And as I mentioned over here, under the FND, the real definition of FND is a miscommunication between the brain and the body. So these symptoms of vision loss, paralysis, brain fog, pain, and all of these things are the sign of that miscommunication, right? So symptoms are not great, but they're the signs, and they're actually not the actual problem. The root problem is the miscommunication of brain and body. And this is where to focus, not the symptoms. So the focus is on that miscommunication. And with that, what FND is, once you know it is a miscommunication of the brain and the body, then what comes with it is that FND is actually not a physical damage. You're not broken, right? FND is not just about stress, about just trauma or weakness and things like that. To be clear, can you have stress and that could cause FND? Absolutely. Can you have a significant trauma that could cause FND? Yes, absolutely. That's possible. But is this the only thing? Is this just one thing that is causing FND? Well, that is where it gets tricky, meaning that FND is never ever one thing that is causing it. Sometimes it can be this one giant thing that really tipped the scale to FND. And other times it could be you were just healthy and not really having any problems until one day, bam, something happened, right? Or you were having many, many little things happening and accumulation of those things. And maybe it was the concussion number 4, right? And maybe it was this one incident that happened in school, or maybe it was this argument that you had with someone you love, for example, right? So anything can be possible, or it could be the concoction or the combination of medical symptoms, for example, right? And that was all happening at the same time or accumulation of. And that's why this kind of going back up to the how FND can start, anything and everything is possible to really contribute to FND. And this is where your FND might be very different from somebody else's FND, even though both of you have the same diagnosis. Just as your FND symptom is just vision loss, consistently paralyzed, for example, right? Or somebody else's FND could be just having these non-epileptic seizures that happens here and there episodically, right? And then sometimes you can have all of the above. Let's just say sometimes you can have a weakness in your body and then feeling like something is off. And maybe you're also having some sort of pain in your body. And then you start to have a blurred vision, you can't see. And the next thing you know, you're having seizure episode, for example. And once you're coming out of the seizure episode, you can also have something like, well, now my legs don't move. Now I'm paralyzed. And now I'm feeling extremely tired. And now I am having really hard time falling asleep. Or now I'm having very much a different behavior or personality changes, like I'm a different person. Or constantly on a background, you can feel like, I feel like it's not real. I feel disconnected. I feel dissociated. All of those things is fair game to be part of FND. Now, flip side is if someone is having brain fog, nothing else, could it be FND? Well, the answer is maybe, maybe not, right? So this is where the accurate diagnosis of FND is really critical. And I know I am saying this, it's really difficult to find a provider who is knowledgeable to find and give you the diagnosis of FND in a way that you would understand, right? So, kind of what I was talking about in the beginning, a lot of families come see me and they share this really sad, horrible stories where they were given an FND diagnosis and that was it. You have an FND diagnosis, good luck, right? Or what you have is something called psychogenic non-epileptic seizures. It's all psychological. So go see a therapist, right? Or it could be just about this gotta be stress and it's gotta be trauma that you don't even know, right? Or it is just live your life, like nothing happened, and then you should be fine. Or you were given a piece of paper. We know you don't have epilepsy, but that was it. So we can't figure this out. So you don't really need to come back to see us anymore, type of thing. Right. So it is very, very difficult to emotionally and physically and mentally to understand because you're walking in with that confusion and then walking away with even more confusion. And you're just like dumped into this no man's land. So that is where a lot of families experience. And if you do, I'm not able to see the chat actually, but keep going, okay? All right, keep typing if you have any questions. All right, so going back to step one, knowing what FND really is, right? And step two is the brain body reset. So let me move this picture really quick. And back up here inside the brain for toolkit. Okay, over here. Okay, so when I say brain body reset, I talk about so many different things. And big picture is we talk about soothing strategies. So this is really about resetting the autonomic nervous system or brain body communication, whichever you want to call it, right? And so the soothing strategy would be something that would turn down the volume of fight or flight. So then you're feeling a little bit calmer, maybe more relaxing or feeling soothed. So this could be something like slow breathing, grounding technique, warm blanket, fuzzy, tight clothes, for example, depending on your preference, right? And calm music and so on. And I talk about having internal and external resources. So internal resources is something that you can use on your own. So for example, the slowing breathing, right? Or grounding techniques and mindfulness meditations and things like that. Although a lot of teens are not super excited about mindfulness, but things like that, right? That you don't really need anything or anyone to do this for you. And external strategies would be something that you kind of have to have something or someone else to do this for you or with you. So it could be the warm blanket. You kind of have to have a blanket, right? Calming music, kind of same thing that you would have to also have a music, unless you are imagining to listen to a music, right? So those are the soothing strategies. And we also teach, because it's not just about soothing, it is also about uplifting strategies or waking up strategies, so to speak. So it could be something like doing fun activity. A lot of teens love sour candy, Sour Patch candy or anything like that. Could be pickle juice, lemon juice, any of that, or spicy food to sort of wake up your nervous system, right? It gives you a little bit of jolt. And it could be gentle movement or walking, really to get yourself up, right? And it could be also something like drinking ice cold water, or use your ice cube and make the water really cold and then put your hand into the ice water. And we teach the nervous system to help you reset. The key is it's not to eliminate symptoms, but to really retrain the brain and the body to work together again, regardless of the symptoms happening in that moment at this stage. So that's the key point here. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to use this slow breathing or grounding to eliminate or stop the symptoms from happening right now or prevent the symptoms from happening right now, then I totally get it. What's happening is you're going back to that symptoms as a main focus, right? And so the nervous system reset is really a long-term game, so to speak. It's not like a sprint right away, immediate release, right? So resetting that nervous system so then you feel like you can get through the symptoms. So what would that actually look like during symptoms? It literally is resetting the brain body just enough to what I would call it ride the wave of symptoms so you can get through the symptoms. So each time you do that, because it's a practice and skills you kind of have to learn and retrain, right? But each time you do that, you are teaching the brain and the body that symptoms are not comfortable, but they're not dangerous. You can do this. You can get through this. That's the message you're basically teaching your brain and the body little by little over time. And that is how the brain body reset starts to happen. Now, when it comes to building resilience and improving neural health, the brain body reset is just one step of so many other steps. So, moving on to the structured routine, that would be the step 3. So, this includes things like waking up time, sleep routine. So, then you're basically resetting yourself from the time that you wake up in the morning to the time that you sleep, right? So, it could also mean balance the meal. And it could also mean implementing the movement, whether it's a gentle or gradual improvement or increase in the increment. We call it the daily menu plan of the 3 R's. So, what are the 3 R's? Number 1 is a responsibility. So, this is something you kind of have to do even though you don't like it. So, it could be schoolwork, work, volunteer work, chores, and things like that. And the second R is reset. So this is where the brain body reset strategies come into play. The third R is recreation. You have to have fun in your life, right? If you feel like you lost it, this is the perfect time to start thinking about it and then start moving in that direction. Baby steps, not like go, 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 go until you crash and burn. We teach everyone to take baby steps, small steps, not waiting until symptoms go away. So you basically become active and feel better instead of waiting until you feel better and then get active. Okay. The key is repetition builds safety. Again, that whole mindset, which leads to the step 4 with hero mindset. FND is not dangerous. It feels scary, I know, yes, but it is not dangerous. And again, the whole point about hero mindset is I can retrain my brain and I can do this. It's that mindset. It is very different from just being positive or pretending everything is fine, because that means that you're only accepting one side of you, not the other side, right? Or pretending everything is fine is you're basically lying to yourself. And that is not the same. Heroes can have really hard time and they make a lot of mistakes, but what they do have in common is they do have the purpose, right? They do have the purpose and this belief system based on that purpose. And the belief system is also something that you build over time. It's not something that you can have since the beginning, right? So that's why you practice the hero mindset. I can retrain my brain. I can do this. I've got this. And then my signature line is always, you've got this, right? You've got this, because I fundamentally believe that anyone can recover from FND. You just need a right approach for you, right? And so again, it goes back to slowly building confidence through action. Now, if you want a starting place like what I'm sharing with you right now, you are more than welcome to download the free action plan below. The link is actually in the description box below, okay? Now, if you're a parent, I definitely want to talk about it because your role makes a whole difference. Your role is simply leadership. And leader is not the same as a rescuer, right? Definitely not the same thing as a police, like pointing out what is not working, right? So then what is leadership? Leadership starts with regulating yourself first. It means modeling calm. It also means holding steady expectations with support, right? And this is not, the time to give up your superpower, right, to your child who is just as lost for no reasons, right? But rightfully so. So no more, I'll leave it up to you without having any strategies or plans. Now, to be clear, if you discuss the strategies and plan with your team, right, and then you're all on the same page, then you can let go of that micromanagement. Now, just like what teens are learning, or some of you who are adults are learning, your parenting, this role in specific to FND recovery, you're also learning too, right? So this is not something that you're expected to know and then be pro at it since day one, right? One more thing related to this. Parents, you set the tone. What does that mean? You can definitely make the final call while encouraging the teen to be part of the conversation. So what does it look like? So that I love teaching parents to have two options. And then when I say two options, it's not about yes or no, because if you ask a question to your child, the answer is either yes or no. If the child says no, then you're stuck, right? So if you set the parameter of what you have already decided to do, that is important, right? And let your child pick between two options, for example. So this would look like this. We are going to practice calming strategies, for example, right? And that's already given. It's not about, do you want to practice calming strategies? Because if your teen says no, then you're kind of stuck, right? So this is, again, you set the tone. This is what we're doing, right? And two options. Option one, we can do practices together, which may or may not be a great option for the teen, but you can just put it in there anyway. Or you can do it yourself and we can review this together later. All right, so that could be two options. And no matter what the two option answer that your child picks, your automatic response is good choice. All right, so the other example would be, okay, we're going to practice this, whatever the strategies, together. That's already that you have made up your mind. That is your final call. And then you can say, now, do you want to practice before or after dinner, for example? Then let your child pick before or after. Again, those are the two options, example, okay? Now, if you're an adult, guess what? You become your own leader and you can practice self-leadership, all right? And again, if you want the starting place for the step-by-step path, the family action plan outlines what to focus on first. Clear, simple structures, and you can download below, all right? Now, what I want to go back to is Recovery Island is not the final destination, okay? This is a place for you all to recover, right? Because healthy land does not mean stress-free. So you're all going back, to healthy land. So let me back up here, okay? And the goal is for you to be in healthy land, but it does not mean perfect, right? Just because you recover from FND doesn't mean that you're not going to have any more stress. Guess what? Life will always bring pressure and changes like these things, right? Like illness, pressure, sleep, social problems, scary moments. This is life. So you will have this. There is no exception, right? However, when you train your brain and the body to work together again, you build something powerful. You actually build the ability to reset and you will be ready. So that is the difference. So instead of alarm goes off and then stay on and then get sucked into the FND Island again, you are having the skills and strategies to reset and then come back to functioning normal. That's the difference. It's the ability to reset. And guess what? Once you have that skill, that becomes your superpower and no one can take that away from you. That is resilience. And that's exactly what we do. When you build resilience and improving your health, you're not just reducing symptoms, right? You're literally building tools for life. So when pressure comes, and it will, like I mentioned, you know how to reset, right? And you know how to regulate, and you know how to lead yourself. And that is how you stay in healthy land. And that's what we teach in Teen FND Academy. So again, recovery is not about avoiding symptoms. It is about getting your life back by retraining your brain and body. And when you do that, the symptoms don't need to be there. That's the funny part. And not in like haha funny, but that's an interesting part, that you have been so worried about eliminating symptoms, but the way to get there is for you to reconnect your brain and body by retraining them, right, to work together. And starting with the fear starts to disappear, right? Because FND is not a dangerous thing, even though it's scary, right? It feels scary, but this is where you build a hero's mindset, resetting, getting back to your life, little by little, baby steps, and then you feel resilient. So even if life brings on any situations, you'll be ready, all right? And when you do that, really, the symptoms don't need to be there. So that is exactly what you're going to be getting at the end. And then how to get there is very different from what we think in terms of the normal, right? Intuitive thinking, right? Because when we feel sick, we focus on the symptoms of sickness. And then once those symptoms are gone, that means the sickness is gone, right? So that is exactly how we have been trained. So why would you think anything else about FND? And that's what gets confusing for so many people, right? Okay. Now, I want to close by answering a few questions I have received and I hear often. And these are literally the questions families ask when they're trying to decide if recovery is really possible. So the first question is, can somebody is able to recover from FND? The answer is yes, because FND stands for functional, right? And then so the brain relearns and the reset ability is restored. So, yes, that is possible and it can happen. Now, the flip side is it is also possible to stay with FND for quite some time in a stuck, right? So, again, this is where it gets little bit confusing as to what to look for. But the way that I have been teaching is when people learn to retrain a brain and a body, they get their life back. So yes, full recovery is possible. Second question is, what if somebody has these symptoms for quite some time, like years and years? That can happen. Well, here's the deal. The time does not equal permanence. Yes, statistically speaking, the sooner you get the diagnosis, the sooner you get the treatment or the recovery journey, right? The sooner, the better, right? Because the better means the ability for you to completely recover from FND is really, really high. And this is why the pediatric population, like children, adolescents, have a higher chance and a better odds of getting better. Does that mean that for you adults, you're like completely done? Oh no, far from it. What you need is a structure and consistency, right? And realizing what FND is and what is not, right? And then what to focus on. So change is still possible, and I've seen it. I had a teen who, actually few teens who have had these symptoms for years and years, and they thought that they just had to live with it. They got better completely, right? Was it easy? Well, the strategies are simple, but they had to work a lot. Yeah, they had to work really hard. Yes, I'm not going to lie. This is not a magic pill or quick fix, because retraining brain body communication takes time, right? But they stuck with structure and consistency, and change was possible. So the third question is, actually, I have some questions. I'm sorry. This is my first time doing the live. So, okay. A child is experiencing periodic leg paralysis, wants to get back to driving, but I'm nervous about that safety. When can she go back to driving safely? Well, there is no set rule about you have to be symptom free for a certain time, for example, right, to be able to drive. I actually do have a YouTube video about the driving sort of guideline that was published in, I would say, probably 2021 or 2022. And so you're absolutely more than welcome to review that video. But the short answer is that if you're actually having the right plan, structure, and being consistent, that's one thing. But if you're just waiting for it to go away, then we're basically playing a maybe game, right? That's where it gets unpredictable. So I don't have the quite straight answer to it, but to just to give you an example, many of the teens in my program want to drive. They either haven't driven, they want to drive, or they used to drive and they couldn't drive and they want to get back to driving. And that is possible. But they're practicing those strategies, as I mentioned, the step by step, right? The next question, the program is over 12, but your son will be 9 next month. Okay, any guidance or mini FND Academy? I wish there was a mini FND Academy at the moment. However, what I do have is that the youngest child who has been in my program that has successfully graduated with symptom resolution was actually 9. So do I make exceptions? As long as the family qualifies for it, then I will make an exception. So if you and then your son are ready to get your life back, then I would say apply and then see if we are a good fit. And okay, Christy, my daughter's having a lot of memory issues. When I try to review with her, she says I don't remember and gets frustrated. She's also really private and does not like to work with me. Any ideas? Great question. So this memory issues is actually in this sort of like a cognitive, like a thinking department category within FND. Oddly, very common thing, even though we don't really think about it that way. And then, so this kind of goes back to, I'm just going to show this screen again of FND Island. Are you actually doing the symptom, checking, focusing? Because if your child is having this episode, then going back to that episode or even during that episode to like a quiz on her or review, this is what happened and this is what you did and you don't remember, that kind of thing, doesn't help. Again, it goes back to, is that actually going to help them feel like that their brain and body are safe? Because it feels like, right, the parents are coming from a place of love and care, right? However, this is again kind of getting into the police, department, like, oh, you don't remember? And I know, I don't want to assume, but I know that is not your intention, right? None of these parents are intending to be like a police, or like a mean person or anything like that. I totally get that. What the teens are getting at is they would feel less and less confident if they are being pointed out. So again, this kind of goes back to, what is your role as a parent, right? So that's what I teach. And then, okay, I do have some, okay, repeated. Any body spasm, common symptoms of FNF, I'm assuming FND. Again, anything can happen. Muscle twitches, body spasm, those things can be part of FND. I've seen it a lot of times. So again, it is one of those things that once you know the FND diagnosis is confirmed, then what you focus is the brain-body communication part rather than focusing and checking on the symptoms. Because again, that is going to get you stuck in that loop, right? Because you're on a hunt, for every single symptom. In my program, we call it symptom chasing behavior, and that actually doesn't work, right? So again, I am not able to tell you the medical advice. Oh yeah, it is FND or it is not. So check with your medical provider. But once you know, okay, this is part of FND, then really time to move on to focus on how to then retrain the brain and the body, right? Yeah. So let's see. Oh, okay. So you're trying to review. She's doing steps of final. Oh, FND workbook, not necessarily. Oh, gotcha. Got it. Okay. Well, then to me, this is more about having a plan and strategies. And just because she doesn't remember doesn't necessarily mean that you have to just kind of leave it at that, right? Because the important thing is that the practice is being done. And so this is again kind of going back to what I was talking about. Could you have, the options of practicing these strategies together, right? Um, Before or after dinner, for example. Right. So those are the things. It has more to do with that. Can you be proactively plan things so then you're not just delegating, you're supposed to do that, right? And then you review, did you do that? And then your child says, I don't remember. Then you're just kind of like repeating the same cycle, right? So then it is really about, okay, then what can we do? The main thing is that it is getting done, sort of, rather than remembering. That would be the secondary thing. So again, that would be how I would approach if you were in my program. All right. Once again, I want to leave it here. For those who are having FND symptoms, you're not broken. This is definitely not your fault either. Recovery is possible. It's structured. Resilience can be built. And your brain can definitely learn a new pattern. Technically, it's called neuroplasticity. That means that your brain can learn a new pattern, right? And again, download the free action plan below. The link is in the description. And if you like this type of structured education, this is my first time doing it, please like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you so much again for joining me today.